Hello, I'm Michael Redmond, professional Go player. This is actually going to be a video about Go, and I'm going to be talking about semis, or races to capture. But first, let's talk about the tiger here. As I make this video, it is the beginning of the year 2022, and that is the year of the tiger in the Chinese zodiac. So the Chinese zodiac has a cycle of 12 years, and they have animals to represent each year. So this year is the year of the tiger. If you happen to be seeing a lot of images of tigers, more than you're used to, that's what it's all about. So you might say this is my New Year's greetings for all of you. And now let's get into the go of this video. I think I want to keep on the right side of this tiger, so let's put me in the corner here. And we'll talk about races to capture. So this is going to be relatively basic. I want to talk about what a semi is, and this is the example of a basic semi here that we're looking at. I'll also be talking about outside liberties and inside liberties. And I'll finish by showing you how an eye can change how the semi turns out. So that's 3 points that I'm going to be talking about. Let's start just looking at this basic diagram. The very basic truth of semis, or races to capture, is that the side with more liberties is going to win. So to make it interesting, these two groups actually have the same number of liberties. So it's this black group here and this white group here. They are both cut off from their friendly groups, and they have to capture the other group in order to survive. So that's kind of a definition of a race to capture. You can see that they're cut off. White is cut off at this point, and black is cut off at this diagonal also. So both of the groups of 4 stones are cut off. And all you have to do to win the semi, if you're destined to win it, that is that all you have to do is fill your opponent's liberties. So black starts with this move, and it becomes very easy because now black has 3 liberties, but white only has 2 liberties. So white will continue like this. And it's like this. So black easily wins by 1 move. It's just a 1 move difference. So you have to use every stone efficiently. If you dawdle or place elsewhere, then white's going to win. So for instance, an example of that would be playing a move that does not fill a liberty. White's going to quickly fill your liberties, and white gets to win this time. So this way white would win by 1 move. So black just can't get there in time, and white's going to win. So just to go back to the beginning once more, another mistake that is sometimes made is you attempt to extend your own group too much. So to a certain extent, extending your own groups, trying to enlarge them, giving them more space is usually it's a good idea. And that's why some people take it too far and try to extend the black group in a position like this, which is already too cramped to do that. So in general, when you're playing Go, you start with an empty board, you try to make areas, extend your groups, make them stronger and bigger. But when you get cramped like this and you're trying to capture your opponent's group first, such moves, in this case, they're not making any progress, and the result is that white's going to win here. So anything like this would be another example of a similar move. And you might wonder why I'm showing such an elementary example. Is that in more complicated situations, even fairly advanced players will make exactly the same mistake. So just the idea that you want to do something on the side, sometimes it misleads you and you miscalculate and do something akin to what I was just showing. So it's very important to keep in mind that basically the idea is to fill your opponent's liberties. So very simply like this is the best idea most of the time. So here we have a diagram that shows a basic race to capture. I've already marked out the board a little bit, but there's this black group, which is cut off, and this white group, which is also cut off. So we have 2 groups that are in danger. And again, the group with more liberties is going to win the semi. So again, it's a semi in which white has 3 liberties, which are the points marked with X's. And black also has 3 liberties, which are the points marked with triangles. And this is the most simple type of race to capture, or semi, because all of the liberties are what I call outside liberties. So if we call this area where the two groups are, if we call that the center of the semi, then all of those mark points are on the outside. So when both sides have only outside liberties, all you have to do is start filling them. So if black plays first, black will have 3 liberties and white will have only 2. So black will win by 1 move. So that's another example basically of what a semi is. But I did want to talk about outside liberties, because next I'm going to be talking about inside liberties. So here we are, a fairly similar shape, same part of the board. The white stones, the shape of the white stones, it looks very similar, doesn't it? And black is bent around just a little bit at this point. But it's similar in that black group, it's also cut off from the black stones at this diagonal. And white is also cut off. So it's a race to capture between these two groups. And we have 2 outside liberties each. And then there's this 1 inside liberty. So in a position like this where you have 1 or more, you can have a large number of inside liberties. There's a basic rule of thumb, which says you do not fill the inside liberties. You wait to the end before filling them. If you have a huge amount of inside liberties, then maybe you're going to end up getting a seki. But if it's just 1, usually one side or the other is going to win. So this is going to happen if you properly fill the outside liberties. So let's do it the right way first here. Black fills an outside liberty here. And white's going to fill an outside liberty too. Black fills an outside liberty here. And this is somewhat like something people show to beginners. So it's an example of how this move can be played when it captures the white stones. It would have been a bad idea to have that stone on earlier because it would have been filling one of black's own liberties. So let's see how that works out. If black plays here first, that's filling an inside liberty. And I've already told you, you don't want to do that. Filling an inside liberty is almost always bad. And I did say almost. I would like to tell you never do that. But there is an example that I can show you of an exception to that rule. But basically, if you fill a liberty inside the semi, it has to be a special move. It has to have some special effect, which is what I'm going to show you later in this video. But in this case, it's just filling a liberty. Black is filling his own liberties. So in this case, white's going to win by 1 move. So that was bad. Let's go back to the beginning. Again, this is filling an outside liberty is correct. Let's have white ignore the rule of thumb and fill an inside liberty here. You can see the white group is already in Atari, and black doesn't even have to do anything. Black can play away. So obviously it's bad for white to do also. So white in a game, white would just give up the local semi and play away probably at this point. But if white's going to play a local move, this is white's best try, and black's going to win by 1 move. So that's how the semi turns out. It's very important not to play inside points. And I used this relatively simple example, but these groups can be huge groups. They can be covering the whole board, and it would still be true. You don't want to fill the inside liberties. And again, I want to say never do it. But okay, now I'm going to show you why I can't say never. Okay, here we have a race to capture. Let's just count the liberties to start with. It's slightly more complicated than previous ones. White has 4 liberties here. Okay. And I'll just get rid of those triangles now. Black has 4 liberties too. So those are the 2 groups that are in danger, just in case you didn't notice. It's this black group, which is cut off, and this white group. So it's one of these is going to probably win the semi. So let's see how that turns out. I've been telling you to fill the outside liberties. So let's do it that way first time. So we're going to have black play first and fill this liberty. So black filled a liberty here. And let's have white fill an outside liberty too. And so both players have been listening to me and they've been filling the outside liberties. And at this point, white notices that on the next move, he's going to be put into Atari. And so white has to choose a point to play, and white finds this point. So what has happened here? If we look at this, there's two inside liberties, and no one wants to play them. So because if black plays here, black's going to put himself in Atari and white's going to capture. Or if black plays away and white plays inside there, black's going to capture white. So no one's going to play those inside liberties now, and it's turned into a seki. Actually, this is not the best result for black. So back to the beginning position here. This is an example of how a move inside the seki can be special. Here there's another basic rule for races to capture, which is that if you have an eye, you have a great advantage. And I'm going to go into a bit more detail later, but first let's just check that black has an advantage here. White's going to fill a liberty here, and black's going to fill a liberty on the outside. And we have this position where white cannot continue to play really, because if white plays here, it's going to put the white group in Atari, and black's going to capture it. So white doesn't want to do anything. Black doesn't have to do anything either. But if black wants to, black can play an Atari from the other side. So black has this extra liberty here inside the eye, which is never going away. In order to take that liberty, white has to play this move first and put black in Atari before white can play inside the eye. So basically that's a kind of a reserved liberty that lasts to the very end of the semi-eye, and white really has to have a lot of extra liberties in order to be able to overcome that advantage that black has. And to look at it another way is that when black has an eye and white does not, all of the inside liberties belong to black. So the inside liberty in this case is this point here at C5. This liberty is a liberty for black, but since white has to fill that point in order to put black in Atari ultimately, this liberty does not belong to white. White will have to fill that liberty in order to succeed in winning the race to capture. For instance, if we went back and we took away one of these black stones, if white has a sufficient amount of liberties, white can overcome that disadvantage and put black in Atari. So this is an example of how white could win the semi-eye. But you can see it did require that white had a significant amount of extra outside liberties, because it's 3 outside liberties for white, only 1 outside liberty for black, and white has to play first. And then white can win the semi-eye. So white does need some extra outside liberties. So if we count the number of liberties here, it's 3 liberties for black, and it was 3 liberties for white. So the player who plays first in this position wins the race to capture. Making an eye can be a significant move if there are inside liberties. So it's this inside liberty that I've marked that gave that extra advantage to black. So final example, if there are more inside liberties, all of them still belong to black if black has an eye and white does not. So this is an example of black playing here. White has 4 outside liberties and black has only 1 outside liberty. This should be bad for black, but the fact that there are 3 inside liberties and all of them belong to black. It's these 3 inside liberties that belong to black means that black has a total of 5 liberties. Black has 5 liberties and white only has the 4 on the outside. So this is an example of a larger number of inside liberties giving a bigger advantage to the side that has an eye. So let's finish this semi just to demonstrate that. It looks like white has so many liberties here. If you were counting the inside liberties, you would say that white has 7 liberties. But in actuality, white only has the 4 liberties on the outside. So we'll start with white playing here. And it goes on like this. Note that black is filling the outside liberties. And black is winning by 1 move. So that's an example of how all of those inside liberties belong to black when black made an eye there. So that was my video about the basics of races to capture. I hope you enjoyed it. Sign up to my channel for more videos like this. Thank you.